In this WrestleTalk news, rumours an AEW star suspended, CM Punk in wrestling training confirmed. Calm yourself, Davis! A review of last night's NXT and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to Always On for daily wrestling news. Where if you do, I'll get my new best friend MJF to dance for you too. He's nice like that. He'll do anything for me, I imagine. It's a new relationship, we're still figuring each other out.
Support WrestleTalk!
Did I mention that MJF's my new best friend, by the way? Okay, let me tell you what happened. So there I am doing the Raw Review WrestleTalk podcast with my old best friend Luke yesterday, and 2 minutes in, producer Rich tells me, "Hey mate, I think you might want to check your Twitter." So there's this post we did on the WrestleTalk Twitter on Monday saying, tag your favourite WrestleTalk presenter and see if they respond. And who should have bloody responded but only my new best mate MJF, who tagged me, saying, Ollie Davis for his impeccable hairline. And that's it! That's the only thing he tweeted. He didn't tweet anything else after that, so don't bother looking or searching for it, because anything you find is likely just a fake account. Ollie and MJF best friends confirmed. But not all offensive humour is always received the same way. Complex joke, relative context segue. Last Monday's 100th episode ever of AEW Dark unfortunately didn't make headlines for its milestone achievement, but for a Max Caster rap during his entrance. Saw him make fun of Simone Biles' mental health issues, a sexual assault lawsuit from 2006, ineffective COVID testing, and Julia Hart's. You know, it rhymes with North Carolina! Many took offense on social media, prompting AEW to remove the episode from YouTube and re-upload it with the Caster entrance edited out. Tony Khan later described the rap as awful, blamed everyone else for letting it get to air, and vowed he would now take over Dark's editing duties himself, with all that free time he has. It now appears AEW are taking this even more seriously. Max Caster and Anthony Bowens were announced for a tag match against Hunter Knott and Rosario Grillo for this week's episode, but then AEW deleted that tweet, and they were nowhere to be seen on Monday's Dark. Additionally, Caster himself has removed references to AEW and his acclaimed tag team with Bowens from his Twitter, and hasn't posted anything since the controversy. He was also pulled from an indie show for Beyond Wrestling over the weekend. Ringside News claimed to have the reason why, reporting AEW suspended Max Caster for 2 months without pay. He must also enter sensitivity training and complete those courses. Comparing it to Sammy Guevara's suspension last year when offensive comments about Sasha Banks he'd made on a podcast years earlier resurfaced. Sammy's AEW pay for those months were donated to charity. Fightful Select adds that Caster is still with AEW, but we were told his appearances were on ice as of that time, and sensitivity training has been discussed. Voices of Wrestling, however, refute Ringside News' report, calling them total fiction. Do I want to open this up? Okay, I'm going to, but remember everyone, be civil to each other, okay, in the comments. I don't want anyone losing their goddamn temper. Let's have a respectful, meaningful conversation and prove how awesome wrestling fans can be. What are your thoughts on the Max Caster controversy? It's an emotive subject with multiple viewpoints, so please treat it seriously. Let me know in the comments down below, because I'll be replying to polite people only for the first 30 minutes after this video goes live from out of nowhere. Thanks for your support on Patreon, WrestleTalk's personal ring announcer Rodrigo Benitez, and The Vision, Adonis. Get your name shouted out on the WrestleTalk news by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Links in the video description below.
To persuade females to come close and admire his plumes, he sings the most complex song he can manage.
We are now just 10 days away from the second ever episode of AEW Rampage, which just so happens to be in the 23,500 capacity United Center in Chicago. Some people believe there's a chance, maybe, possibly, that CM Punk might make his wrestling return on. Fightful Select is reporting something that might support that, writing that Punk started wrestling training this year for the Stars show Heels with Stephen Amell. The wrestlers and cast members who worked with him said very promising things about the upstart Punk, saying he looked completely healthy compared to the end of his WWE run in 2014. One source praised it was like he'd never left, while another speculated he'd been training in private leading up to being in the ring with them. He was so good. CM Punk to hold the door, Davis. Not until he's on screen. But Punk might not be the only huge AEW signing, as yet another conflicting report has come out about Adam Cole's future. NXT accidentally let Adam Cole's contract expire last month, thinking it was actually up sometime in December. The person in charge of keeping track of stuff like that was consequently fired a few weeks later, and Cole is currently working on a verbal agreement with WWE until SummerSlam weekend to figure something out. Cole reportedly met with Vince McMahon personally at Friday's SmackDown taping, which was said to have gone very well, with McMahon even taking a liking to him. "Run, Cole, oh my god, run as fast as you can." Both Raw and SmackDown's creative teams were then told to pitch ideas for Cole's main roster debut. One unsubstantiated rumor even claimed he was offered a $1 million contract to stay with the company, which Cole's Bullet Club buddy Carl Anderson quote tweeted on Twitter, but take that with a life-threatening pinch of salt. But at the same time as all this, NXT, Adam Cole's home for the last 4 years, is falling in on itself. Vince reportedly wants to overhaul the show, making it about young, big guys who can main event WrestleMania, and no longer about the, quote, indie midgets, releasing 13 wrestlers on Friday, the same time as Cole's meeting with McMahon, including Cole's undisputed era buddy Bobby Fish. Dave Meltzer's school of thought is that these two mindsets do not contradict each other, as there is always an exception to the rule, and Cole is talented and charismatic enough to be that exception. Vince has enough hypocritical contradictions in himself that means he really could want to push 5'8" Cole on the main roster while dismantling everything that built him up in the company. Fightful Select says no deal has actually yet been put on the table, with talks still ongoing. And now Ringside News is reporting there is no huge push to keep Cole in WWE, because even if he does agree to stay, their source told them fans shouldn't get their hopes up for WWE's current ideas for him, noting there's just money being thrown his way for a role most people won't believe. A role most... Dear God. We're getting a Michael Cole's son storyline. I'm okay with that. What do you think is going on with Adam Cole in WWE? Let me know in the comments. Meanwhile, in NXT, everything's falling apart. Following the release of 13 NXT wrestlers on Friday, including several prominently featured fan favourites like Bronson Reed, Mercedes Martinez and Bobby Fish, and reports WWE is going to overhaul the brand away from the indie style that has made it so beloved, WrestleVotes have tweeted about the atmosphere backstage at last night's show. The mood at the Performance Center today ahead of tonight's NXT show, oh boy, tensions running high, to say the least. And it wasn't just the backstage staff and wrestlers who are upset. The crowd are too. Unlike most major wrestling promotions that tour around the country, reaching new fans every week, NXT TV always happens in the same venue. That doesn't always result in the noisiest crowds, as they become desensitized pretty quickly. But you can't deny the passion of the hardcore base of fans who are there for every show. The exact fans who are about to see the wrestling they love so dearly change. At Taratastic on Twitter, who is one of those fans, has posted about last night's taping from being there in person. So we started off with our usual, "We are NXT," and someone yelled back, "We were NXT." So the vibes tonight, they are off. Smiling face with open mouth and cold sweat emoji. Those wrestlers who were fired last week aren't too pleased with the product watching from home either, with Bronson Reed tweeting a Simpsons clip of Elvis shooting a TV set, saying, this show ain't no good. Don't worry, the main roster style will sure fix it with all those stellar ratings. Oh no, wait, that's not happening either. As we usually say here on WrestleTalk, is it good or is it different? And just like the Thunderdome last August, which saw an initial jump in WWE viewing figures, to then drop back down considerably, just a few weeks after returning in front of live fans, Monday Night Raw has pulled in its lowest ratings so far, with just 1.79 million viewers, which is 60,000 people below the 2021 Thunderdome era average. All this with no competition from the Olympics either. You might have seen over the last week that I've been sporting this new Jam That Jam t-shirt design. Isn't it jamtastic? It's available to order on WrestleShop.com now, link in the video description below. And to celebrate the official release, we're launching a competition where everyone who has bought one already through to the end of August is getting a chance of winning a video call with me and Luke. Which isn't MJF, I know, but it's got me on at least. Everyone who's bought our new Jam That Jam t-shirt already, and any new orders for the next 2 weeks, will be automatically entered into the prize draw. And we'll randomly select 2 winners on Thursday the 26th of August, who'll be notified by email. So go buy my t-shirt while you enjoy Tempest's NXT review in about 5 minutes.
I mean, I've been doing it on the podcast, so might as well do it here too. What's going on, WrestleTalk friends and fans? Tempest the Wrestler is back with another review of NXT in about 5 minutes. I'll say right off the bat, the vibe of this show is a major downer. The crowd did not seem super invested, and when they aired the graphic at the beginning of the show that said, "We are NXT," someone yelled back, "We were NXT." It's only gonna get worse from here. So it was announced earlier in the day that Ember Moon was not medically cleared for her match with Saray, so Dakota Kai stepped in and took her place. This was a pretty alright match for what it was. They went back and forth with some grappling and some strikes before Dakota Kai eventually hit her big boot in the corner for the win. This, of course, was Saray's first loss in NXT, and even though she hasn't really been doing anything since her debut, I still would have liked to have seen a little bit more care and effort put into her character. After the match, Raquel Gonzalez came out to run off Dakota Kai and say that at TakeOver 36, she was going to tear her apart. This was all pretty solid stuff, nothing really blew me away. It's gonna get a 3 out of 5. Throughout this show, we had a number of vignettes where Index was going on their first date. Kind of a mixed bag for me, I know, shocker, right? The gist of these vignettes were that they went out to a restaurant and Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae followed them to make sure they could spy on them during the date. There was a cute line here and there, but this was the kind of thing that I was hoping they would do like 3 months ago. I didn't find them to be terribly offensive, but I didn't find them to be terribly funny either. I'm gonna give them a 2 out of 5. The next one saw Ilya Dragunov come out and say that at TakeOver 36, he's gonna make history and a kingdom will fall as he takes down Walter to become NXT UK champion. He was then interrupted by Pete Dunne, who said that Dragunov should be thanking him for the ability to challenge Walter as he put NXT UK on his back. This was good stuff. They set up a match for later in the show. This is gonna get a 4 out of 5. The next match saw Andre Chase lose to LA Knight in about 20 seconds. I'll tell y'all right now, of the 6 matches that took place on this show, 4 of them went about 3 minutes or less. You can bet your ass that that will play into my final score tonight. This one in particular really was just an avenue to do another promo segment as Ted DiBiase came out to confront LA Knight and Cameron Grimes. LA Knight said that he would give Cameron Grimes another shot at the title at NXT TakeOver, but if he wins, Ted DiBiase will now be his butler. I'd have to imagine this will be where Cameron Grimes wins the title, but man, I'd really like to see Ted DiBiase in a few butler vignettes. Those would be so much fun. The match itself was absolutely nothing, but the promo segment was good. I'm gonna give that a 3 out of 5. Gigi Dolan cut a backstage promo where she was cutting the heads off of some roses and then went out and beat Amare Miller in about 2 minutes. Dolan had a really cool looking finish. It was like a snap crucifix bomb. It was really cool. That was about the only notable thing in the match though. This, I don't even know how to rate it. It was just like a squash match. I guess a 2 out of 5. That should be about average. We then got the face-to-face confrontation with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. William Regal announced the 3 Stages of Hell match. I will not call it a 2 out of 3 falls match because it's not a 2 out of 3 falls match. It's a 3 Stages of Hell match. I don't care that they don't want to call it that anymore. Kyle O'Reilly announced that he will be picking just a straight up singles match to try and avenge his loss at the Great American Bash, while Adam Cole picked a street fight. The crowd was not behind Kyle O'Reilly in this segment, and I think it really serves to show how much damage they've done to him as a top babyface over the last few months. Cole totally tore into him in this promo segment as well. He said that he was pathetic, and for 13 years he's been proving that he's better than him. I like the nod to Ring of Honor. That is a nice touch. Eventually Cole said that Kyle means nothing to him, at which point they start brawling. I do like that touch as well, that was the moment that made Kyle snap. And then William Regal announced that the 3rd fall would be a steel cage match. So yes, the 3 falls are exactly the same as the Cole Gargano match, which wasn't mind-blowing to begin with. This whole segment was a mixed bag. The fans were really into Cole, but not into Kyle, and then the stipulations that they chose were not super enticing. I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5. We had the semi-final matchup in the NXT Breakout Tournament as Odyssey Jones took on Trey Baxter. Trey Baxter was able to get some offense in, but this was Odyssey Jones' match as he won with his modified side slam. After the match, Jones was able to cut a promo at ringside, and he is just so likable. He has so much natural charisma. I could very easily see him winning the tournament. tournament. I mean, after all, he does fit Vince McMahon's prerogative. He is big. The match really wasn't much of anything, but the promo segment boosted up. I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5. The next match saw Boa take on Drake Maverick in another short match. They had 4 short matches in a row on this show. Unbelievable. There wasn't anything to this one either. Boa got sent to the outside, and as Drake Maverick hit a plancha and sent him back in, Mei Ying blew smoke in Maverick's face, allowing him to be distracted, and Boa hit a spinning kick to the back of the head for the win. I'm long since past caring about Tian Sha and what they're gonna do. They've given me nothing to bite onto as a unit. I just don't care anymore. This one gets a 2 out of 5. And then we had the main event of Ilya Dragunov taking on Pete Dunne. These two guys are both super workers, and they had a very enjoyable match filled with the amount of grappling and strikes that you would expect from these two. Pete Dunne took the majority of this match, working over Dragunov's limbs, but just as Dragunov appeared to fire up and make his comeback, Walter made his return to NXT, distracting Dragunov, allowing Pete Dunne to get the win. What? Now I will say, it was a very good idea to put an Ilya Dragunov match on NXT for the people that were not as familiar with him before TakeOver. But having him lose? And he's going to be facing Walter! Walter! The undefeated, unbeatable Walter. I don't get it. After the match, Walter got in the ring and Dragunov hit him with Torpedo Moscow as they went off the air with him holding the NXT UK Championship. I don't even know. The match was very enjoyable, but the idea to have Pete Dunne beat Ilya Dragunov ahead of his match with Walter, terrible. The post-match, also wasn't really a fan of it. I'm going with 3 out of 5, but man, this could have been so much better. I'll be honest, guys, I was really interested to see what NXT was going to give this week, hopefully raise the spirits after last week's releases, but this was one of the worst episodes of NXT that I've had to review yet. I'm giving this one a 2 out of 5. Very disappointing. And that just about wraps it up for me. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on this show, make sure you go over to WrestleTalk Podcast later on today, where myself and Chopper Pete will be breaking down this entire episode of NXT in detail. In addition to that, make sure you check out Quizzlemania 39 later on today, where I will retain this crown. I don't get the trophy because, you know, Canada, UK, so I've got a crown. I'm gonna retain the crown. Wale, Sam Roberts, Luke Owen, you're going down, boys.
Let's take a trip to the darkest side of both the tabletop hobby and the human soul, without passing go or collecting $200. I'm Adam from No Rolls Barred, and here are 10 board games that led to real life violence.